He was coming to a stop. He had been in full 8-year-old sprint across the yard, and he felt a sting in his feet as he slapped flat against the ground in his shoes, thudding once, twice, to a stop against the dull blue metal door. He was almost panting. He rubbed his head gently against the edge of the door frame. It was a satisfying little scratch. He brushed the hair away from his eyes and turned around to look out at the yard. They were playing tag. The field of play was the yard behind their school, all concrete and chalk marks, hopscotch grids and goalposts, starting lines for races, which were rarely respected. By the main entrance of the school, a series of markers where they would line up at the end of playtime before slouching in, grade by grade. At the other end of the building was a little recess, about 6 by 6, protecting the back of the building from nothing in particular. The one-story red brick exterior of the school made up 2 sides of the nook and kept it shaded, but not dark. There was no need for chalk marks here. You knew when you were in it, and you knew when you were out. And when you were playing tag, this was home. Noah believed strongly in not being it. Tag was not his favorite game, but when the boys and girls all felt like playing together, it was the most popular option available. The game started at the other end of the yard, where someone would do a quick, and usually rigged, eeny, meeny, miny, moe to designate the first it. The crowd would scatter and move around the yard, taunting their pursuer. A loose circle would form, spinning around it, as it themselves slowly rotated in the center. After a few seconds of lulling their orbiting prey into a false sense of security, it would make a break for the perimeter, usually grabbing a fistful of the side of someone's t-shirt in the process. The center of the universe would shift, and the circle would reform. As legs grew tired from these initial skirmishes, some of the children would peel off from the main group and make a break for home. Going too early was chicken, but go too late and you risk getting singled out and caught, with no room to dodge, weave, or feign ignorance you had even been tagged in the first place. No matter when you got there, though, you were certain to see Noah, toes on the line of shadow which designated the boundary of safety, always looking like he was about to make a break for it, but never moving. At the beginning of each game, Noah would skip the early stage whirlpool and beeline straight across the yard to safety. He had long ago decided that no one really noticed, so it was probably fine. It also left you in an excellent position for the interminable mid-game. As bits of the circle broke off, the game would get smaller and smaller, and eventually the majority of participants would be lolling around in the little cove by the back door. It was crowded, but you could still walk around, lean against the wall. Then, with everyone else safe, whoever was left as it would stand just off the boundary, giving a step or two to any daredevils who felt like making a quick lap of the yard to prove their speed. Here's the problem. Only the fast kids ever ran in the mid-game, and if you were it at this stage, the chances are that you were not a fast kid. Like all the great schoolyard sports, tag was really built for ruthlessly isolating someone from the group. There were 6 players left. Lynn was it. When the circle finally broke, she lost a second getting off her mark, but it didn't matter. She caught up to Sam a few yards from the boundary and pushed him forward with her tag. He stumbled a couple of extra steps into home and a waiting crowd of standing players who pushed him right back out. "It can't be in home!" they shouted enthusiastically. "No way, I was in!" he protested and tried to cross the line. His classmates blocked the way. He stared ruefully for a second and gave up. Getting caught was bad enough, but for Sam, getting caught by a girl was a personal affront. Sam wasn't particularly well liked, but he had a confidence about him that engendered respect. And in a playground, that's often a more useful trait to have. He was closest to Noah, somewhat by default. They lived down the street from one another and often traded video games. This is probably why Sam called him out. It's much easier to take out your bad luck on a friend than someone you don't understand. Sam turned and looked over the crowd. The fast kids were already on the line, fainting and getting ready to make a break for their victory lap. Others stood a step or two back, watching intently. If they stopped looking out over that boundary, it might disappear. The more apathetic kids milled around behind everyone else, leaning against the walls. Within 10 years, most of them would have taken up smoking. Noah was halfway between the first and second groups, unsuccessfully trying to make himself look like a kid who might run. Sam picked him out. "Hey, you've been in here the whole game," Sam yelled, exasperated. "Nuh-uh," Noah countered. He shook his head, a second too late to coincide with his own vocals. The overall effect was unconvincing. "If you haven't left home all game, you have to leave home now. Those are the rules," Sam declared. They were not the rules. "No, I don't." "Yes, you do." Emboldened, Sam took a step towards the line. It wasn't like Noah could beat him with a couple of steps of a head start anyway, but after setting this up, Sam really couldn't afford the risk of Noah getting by him. The other kids started to wise up to what was happening. They stepped to the front, jostling for position. It was a playground sacrifice. "Come on, Noah, run! Don't be such a wuss, Noah. You can't sit here all day." "I'm not sitting, you jerk." Noah turned around from shouting down the crowd and faced Sam. Noah had one leg out in front, his hands resting on his forward knee. He bent slightly. "You can't make me go." "I'm not going," he said quietly. Sam raised an eyebrow and turned his back, theatrically. "All right," he said, "I can't make you go. But how about this?" He looked over the crowd. "How about this is no longer home? Everyone has to go." This was a divisive proposition, at best. The protests were loud. "Hey, I'm not moving just because Noah sucks." At the front of the pack, though, the sports kids were intrigued. Sometimes a change is as good as a rest. "Yeah!" someone shouted. "Everyone has to run." The other kids quickly and quietly fell in line. This is no longer home," Sam announced. "In 3, 2, wait," Noah stopped him. "So where is home?" "I don't know," Sam shrugged. "Could be the hopscotch. It could be by the gates. It could be Timbuktu. I don't know." "But where is it?" Noah pleaded. "Wherever," Sam replied and started the count, stepping back from the line with each number from 3. A lot went through Noah's head in those 3 seconds. He looked around him. His classmates were pushing each other around, trying to get close enough to the line not to get trapped, their little nook having transformed from a haven into a dead end. 2. He looked out at Sam, waving his arms with each number, reveling in his ringmaster role. Finally, he took a look out across the yard and the railings at the other end of the playground. 1. He decided simply, if he couldn't stay here, he'd take his chances as far away as possible. Go. Noah hesitated a second, and the first wave of kids blew by him, laughing and screaming. He started to move, but looking up he saw Sam, eyes fixed on him, hands hovering over his hips like a gunslinger. Sam started towards him. Noah tried to juke around it, but Sam got a hand to his hip hard like a slap. Noah took off across the yard, grasping and missing at hoodies and t-shirts, swarms of bodies calling him over while maintaining a careful distance. Stopping.